know that saying, painting yourself into a corner? I think that's entirely what David Moyes has done, and I think he's sort of done it accidentally, and now he's painted himself in the corner. He doesn't know how to get out. He's done it on a couple of occasions. The most recent one, of course, is the Thomas Souček Rescue Act. And I think because Souček has rescued us at the end of games, he's now got even more confirmation in his own mind than he had previously that he can just defend in games. It's honestly, it's given him even more validation. It's rubber stamped what David Moyes always suspected, which is you can defend, you can defend, you can defend, and then chuck the big fella up at the end, win the game. And I think because of that, West Ham struggled in this game against Crystal Palace. The other thing, which I really want to talk about, because I discussed that yesterday about painting yourself into a corner, is another thing that he stumbled upon. I think he's a bit of a stumbler, isn't he? He stumbles upon these things. The thing he stumbled upon was Lucas Paqueta playing on the left-hand side of midfield. It was a means to an end, if you remember. It was a way to get Thomas Souček into the team. And I guess it sort of worked, and it did work a little bit. But it also stumbled upon it, as I think, as a result of, this is very tenuous, but stick with me, as a result of Nigel Gerd getting a red card. I think it was against Chelsea. Edson Alvarez was brought on. He saw Edson Alvarez, realised how good Edson Alvarez was, and then thought, I really need a defensive midfielder. Oh, but hold on, I need James Ward-Prowse, and I need Thomas Souček, who of course is undroppable now because of the last-minute headers and whatnot. But I also need to play Lucas Paqueta. Oh, and by the way, at some point I need to get this other bloke in, I'm talking about Kudus here, who we'd bought to replace Paqueta, who's still left here. So David Moyes had all these problems, and he stumbled into a solution. Play Paqueta on the left. Okay, that's it. And it sort of worked in a little bit. And then even when it didn't work, we didn't play badly. Like we didn't play badly against not Crystal Palace. We did play badly against Crystal Palace. Against Manchester City. Went a goal ahead, didn't we? And then they won, but there was enough promise in the performance, enough promise in the tactics for David Moyes to think, I'll stick with this. I'll stick with this. And unfortunately, we've now got to a situation where I don't think Lucas Paqueta has played well for a few games. And I couldn't help but think, looking at him and looking at Jarrod Bowen, we'll get into him in a minute, that he's been moised. And what do I mean by moised? I'll tell you what I mean by moised. Pablo Fornals has been moised. And he's been taken from an attacking player, that kid that played for the Spanish under-21s. They would have won that tournament in their Spanish under-21s. And he played sort of as an attacking, left attacking midfielder. He's sort of taken him and erased all of the all of the flair and all of the artistry out of him. And he's turned him into a pragmatic, defensive player. I'm not sure how good Benrahma ever was, but I know he has a lot more flair to him when he was at Brentford. But Benrahma never truly got into the team until David Moyes was sure he was going to put in a really good defensive shift. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. Eddie Howe does it at Newcastle. Those wide players have got to get back and they've got to help out. But as a byproduct of Moyes doing it, he sort of knocks the effectiveness out of some of these players. And I just looked at Lucas Paqueta in that game against Crystal Palace and I thought, you have had your mojo knocked out. Yeah, I mean, he was trying, but you saw ultimately a frustrated player. Now, towards the end of the game, Paqueta played a really nice ball to Emerson. And I know he doesn't stay on the left-hand side when he's deployed on that left-hand side. I know he doesn't stay there. He's allowed to wander. But towards the end of that game, what had happened was you found that Mohamed Kudus was more on that left-hand side. Bowen was more on the right. And Paqueta had been given full licence to go where he wanted. He dropped deep and he sprayed this ball to Emerson. It was beautiful. Really beautiful pass. And it was pretty much the only good thing he did during the game. And I just looked at it and I thought, all throughout that game, what are we doing to this player? Look what's happening to this player so as we can accommodate these other guys. And, they've all got their merits, both Edson Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse and Thomas Souček. But they're all lesser footballers than Lucas Paqueta. You've got to have someone in your team that can prize open the opposition. And we do have those players. Mohamed Kudus did it. But, get your most attacking player in the sort of the area of the pitch where he's going to cause the opposition most damage. And that just wasn't going to happen in this game because of the position that Paqueta was in, which brings me on to Jarrod Bowen. Actually, before I do get on to Jarrod Bowen, Hammers Chat have got a really, really good offer for today only, for 24 hours only. There's 20% off of all mugs on our online store. Go and check it out. It's hammerschatstore.com. 20% off all mugs. We're running this promo for 8 days, by the way. For 8 days, there's a different offer on every single day. Stay tuned. Keep looking, and then you'll find out what tomorrow's offer is. But if you're looking for Christmas present for someone, go and have a little look in the store. The link is in the description below. 20% off of all mugs. Now, looking at Jarrod Bowen, we've already spoken on this channel about Jarrod Bowen playing up front. I don't have a problem with him playing up front, and I understand why Moyes was probably quite excited about doing it. But it can only really happen when we're playing against teams that are going to attack us. When we get to have a proper counter-attack, we don't really get a proper counter-attack against Crystal Palace. What happens when you've got a deep lying defence? Basically, Bowen ends up playing with his back to goal, and he just gets bullied, he gets pushed over. He's too small to do it. And it was painful, really painful watching this happen to him. Now, I'm not suggesting that either Bowen or Paqueta have been permanently Moyes yet. But it is the graveyard shift, that striker role for West Ham. And I often used to wonder, did Bowen hate playing on that right-hand side where he used to have to track back and sort of help out Soufal so much in games? And I sort of got the impression he would dislike it. And I used to think, I wonder if he wants to play up front. Well, I'll tell you what, I bet he looks at that up front now. I bet he'd rather be playing on that right-hand side because at least he's involved in the games. Completely and utterly isolated. To see him, the frustrated Bowen, in that second half, dropping deep into our own half to collect the ball off of a gird or wherever it was a depressing sight. And then what he did, he tried to play a run 1-2 and then went on a run. It was one of the only times where he was facing the opposition defenders. Every other time he had his back to them. Really frustrating. I'm getting mightily annoyed with these tactics. It's a tough way to play at home, you know? Really tough way to play in front of your home fans. I'm not talking about Bowen particularly. I'm talking about the tactics that are used by David Moyes. They're not tactics a home team should be using, really. Don't get me wrong. I think a newly promoted home team who are trying to grind things out, if Sheffield United do it, I don't blame them. But not a team that have spent £400 million, not a team that are champions of Europe in the Conference League last season. And actually, I don't think it's a bad tactic in Europe, by the way. But at home in the Premier League, come on. And I'm sort of tempted to say we got what we deserved. And we probably did against Crystal Palace yesterday. We probably got what we deserved. But I also have to say, if we had have lost that game, I wouldn't have complained too much. I really wouldn't have done. But David Moyes is going to have to find a solution to some of this stuff. Because I tell you what, it's going to be a long old season if we're going to continue to play like that. Because whilst we got what we deserved against Crystal Palace, we didn't get what we deserved against Burnley, didn't get what we deserved against Paqueta and Bowen, didn't get what we deserved against Nottingham Forest, I would argue. I'd argue we won games we probably didn't deserve to on those occasions. And it was always going to be the case. I think if in many respects our luck ran out, but I don't think we've been paid back. I think we're still in credit in the luck department. I think we've got some bad luck going to come our way. You know, if that's what they say, don't they say that, don't they? It evens itself out over the course of the season. Not sure I believe that at all. I'm not too superstitious. But if that is true, then we've got some bad luck coming our way. Because, you know, as I say, we're massively in credit. Look, ultimately, David Moyes is going to need to find a better way to deal with the Jarrod Bowen problem because he's found himself in his situation and now he's stuck. It's like a glitch in the Matrix where it keeps looping, or it's like a stuck record. And now he's put himself in his position and he's got these good players. And what he really needs to do is drop one of his functional players, be it Souček, be it Ward-Prowse, or be it Alvarez, to move Paqueta back into the middle. And then what he's going to need to do is ideally play his two skillful wide players and have them swapping wings. And then play a striker up top. As I say, for playing against teams that are attacking us, play Bowen up top. but he's stuck. He is. Honestly, there is a massive glitch in the matrix with him. Very, very annoying. And I think if I was Lucas Paqueta, and then in particular, Bowen less so, because I think Bowen probably knows he is going to be playing wide again at some point soon. But I think if I was those players in that game against Crystal Palace, I think I'd be really annoyed. And I think the fact that he changed it at the end, as I say, like he was rearranging it, he was just trying to do whatever he could whilst keeping his favourite players on the pitch. By the time you saw Bowen going right and Kudus going left and then Paqueta going up top, I think it was an admission. I think it was that was as close as you get as David Moyes to admitting what I'm doing is not working. I'm not brave enough to take any of these players off. It's broken, but I don't know how to fix it.